Welcome back. Was it episode 55?
Some chip bags. Yep, 55. Just another milestone. Seems like it's like the TV remote. It's only the 5 and 10s that it feels like episodes. That's the milestones that you have.
Yep.
Can't have the volume on anything other than 5, 10, or an even numbers, shit like that. But thanks everybody for tuning in, for watching. We can't thank everybody enough for all the support. Just everything that's been going on throughout the years. So it's been great. We have some awesome guests that we have lined up for the rest of the year. They're really excited for. We can't do anything without our sponsors. So huge thank you to Taylor's Tins, Crew First Culture, Jobtown Graphics, Toxic Suppression. Give all those guys some support if you can. They've been some awesome help. And without further ado, I think we'll bring in our guest here, huh?
For sure.
Hey, Jarrod, how's it going?
Hey, what's up, guys?
Good.
Not much. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on here.
Thank you for coming on. Why don't you go ahead and give a quick introduction about yourself?
Yeah, no problem, man. So again, my name's Jarrod Sergi. I'm currently battalion chief over here in Norfolk, Virginia. So Norfolk is a small East Coast city right there in the Mid-Atlantic. I've been there for just over 20 years. Before that, I joined the Navy. I used to live in Southern California, joined the Navy, spent just under 6 years there. And that's how I actually ended up in Norfolk. And I was getting out of the Navy. I started testing around a bunch of fire departments. Norfolk was the first one that grabbed me. So that's where I've been ever since. So I've held a bunch of different assignments, obviously, throughout the course of my career, both administrative and operations positions. So I'm currently the logistics chief. I've been there for, I guess it's about 6 months now so far. So
Nice.
Very different for me, right?
Yeah.
Nobody joins the fire department and says, you know what? I can't wait to get into procurement and budget and all that kind of stuff and facilities and project management. But I'm learning a lot. So that's really good. I got some good people in there with me. So it's been a pretty good assignment for me so far. So that's me.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for coming on. And like I said, we'll kind of jump into everything. So stepping back to your last role where you're in the battalion chief, from that perspective, what is the most common mistakes that you see company officers make on the fire ground?
Ooh, that's good. So probably some of the most common mistakes I see people or company officers make. One, I'll take it down to the tactical level first, right? So when they step off the truck, they just simply don't provide clear direction. They don't paint a picture of what's going on. They don't name or describe the occupancy type of the building, because as you all know, occupancy dictates tactics, right? So they do a poor job of just doing I say size of their brief on-scene report, right? So they fail to paint that picture, and then ultimately they just fail to provide direction and give direction to the companies that they lead. There's a certain expectation in my mind and in my world where a company officer, when they step off the rig, they're competent, they're capable, they know how to make good decisions, they know how to do a good risk assessment, they know how to read fire behavior, read buildings, and all those things. And a company officer, if they can't step off the truck and do those things, they're going to make mistakes, right? They're going to make poor decisions. They're going to not read buildings. They're not going to be able to lead their crew. And then I think just a more broad thing, going back to the decisions, the mistakes, sometimes they're too timid. They feel like they have to mother may I with the incident commander. And that can come from the boss, right? The boss might make them do it or micromanage them a little bit. But I think that's a couple of the mistakes that they make is, again, mother may I and the chief, please, can I do this? Or can I do this? Or do you want us to do this? Like, if it needs to be done, ask for permission to do it and then do it. And then paint that picture again when you're getting on scene. So that's the fireground stuff. As far as most common mistakes in the firehouse, to getting off the fireground a little bit, I would say not checking their ego and listening to their folks, understanding that you're not always going to have the right answers, and that sometimes you just need to sit back and shut up and listen to the firefighters that are in your station and on your crew. And sometimes they have the best ideas, and you're not always the smartest person in the room. So, we like to give advice, especially to new people, to kind of sit back and be quiet and keep your ears open and your mouth shut, kind of a thing. And I know where that comes from, but I think sometimes company officers need to do the same thing, right? They need to sit back. They need to open their ears. They need to listen to their crew and realize they're not the smartest person in the room.
Yeah, like that.
Because that's certainly me. I've made the mistakes. So trust me, this comes from a place of failure as well.
Yeah.
That's what we learn. That's what we talk every time.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I like that.
What are some effective ways officers can train their crews beyond the typical check the box drills?
So effective ways that they can train their crew. So I'll dive into a couple things, and then I hope I'll circle back to the question. But you guys will keep me on track, I'm sure.
Yes.
So I talk about three things when company officers do training, right? Because like I said, a lot of times it's the check the box, right? Whether it's, oh, we've missed our mark this month, I gotta put something together. It's gonna be poor, right? Or the training center says I need to get something done. It's likely gonna be poor if their heart's not in it, if there's no purpose behind it.
Yeah.
So the main thing is it goes into your planning, your preparation, and your delivery. So I'll talk about that for just a little bit, right? As a company officer, one of the things that I used to do, and hopefully this is tangible takeaways people can walk away with. I used to print up one of those free like internet calendars, and I would highlight my shift days, and I would sit down there with the other officers if I had the other officers in the stations with me, and we would sit and I would ask them a very clear question. What are our priorities over the next 6 to 8 weeks, and what do we need to get done? And, ideas are going to come up, right? We need to go stretch lines. We need to go cut up on cars. We need to do some EMS training. We need to do whatever. And we would pepper that little calendar, right? So now we have a plan, right? We know on this date we're performing this drill or this training or whatever, right? So the planning part, check, right? Now we can prepare, which means, hey, I have on the calendar here that we're going to go over and do primary searches or searches at the burn building, whatever, right? Well, am I going to need mannequins? Am I going to need smoke? Am I going to need this, that, or the other? Are there required structures that came up in my department? I know that's all, depending on where you work, you might not get access to those all the time. But because I have that preparation piece and I planned, I prepared, I got the equipment, the resources, that already is trending in the right way to make that training relatable, realistic, practical, put together, organized, right? Where people are going to be drawn to do it, as opposed firefighters we're not idiots, right? They're going to know when they show up to a drill or training exercise and this is just done kind of half-ass. And then the last part is your delivery, right? Be enthusiastic, be a team player, being okay to fail, making sure that you are there to teach people and train them so they can learn a skill or a task or a function, not to be condescending, not to poke fun at them, not to make them demonstrate failure. So I think all those things are important as a company officer. So going back to the question, I think a little bit, all that groundwork is important, but for me, get out of the firehouse as much as possible. Like there is so much value in just getting out in your district, and there's so many ways that you can do it. You talk about effective ways to have training as a company officer in a station. Go out and park your rig on a block and walk up and down the block. Look at buildings, look at doors, walk behind commercial structures and talk about the different locks. Get out in your districts and stretch hose. Yes, can you stretch hose to the back of the bay door? Yeah, you're eventually going to nail that, right? But get out in your districts, right? Go to vacant properties. I used to drive around on Zillow and I would look at houses that were for sale. And I'd say, hey, this one's for sale. We'd pull right up on that. We'd stretch on it, right? We wouldn't do anything crazy. We're not trying to make entry or anything, but we'd stretch to the door. We'd stretch around back. We'd come up with little scenarios. Same thing on the ladder company. I was assigned to a ladder. Like I could throw the ladder to the flagpole every morning, but I'm not saying there's value in depth perception and all those things, right? Of course there is. But, I've yet to go to fire where I'm spotting a flagpole. Like, so get out and actually put your stick on real buildings, right? Work that depth perception is important. So don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not saying people can't do those things, but if that's all you do, to me, that would be an issue, right? Get that truck out there, put it on buildings, like practice. So that is going to keep people engaged when you put them in realistic scenarios. So that is I guess the main answer to that question is, if you want to be effective, plan, prepare, and have credible delivery of the training you're providing, and get your people out of the firehouse, get them in the district, walking around, looking at forcible entry challenges, looking at challenges with your stretch, looking at challenges with your ladders, talking about building construction. Everybody's city looks different, but man, I used to park. I worked in the downtown district for many years, a large portion of my career. So it was a lot of interesting building stock, right? Old balloon frame, ordinary construction, old strip malls. We would just park and we would just talk buildings and construction and challenges and how's fire behave in these buildings. Like there is so much value in just getting out of the station and putting your people in those realistic scenarios, and just being an expert in the district around you. And I could tell you that, just because you're stationed in a high-rise district doesn't make you a high-rise expert, right? Like, it's the work, right? You got to get out, you got to get in the buildings, and you got to ask questions about fire protection systems and standpipes and flow and hydraulics and water supply and all those things. That is what is going to make you truly own that district.
Awesome. Yeah, I like that. We do that kind of the same thing on our shift. So we call it like the first 5-minute drill. So we have an engine in a truck. So it's nice for the new operators to get out and actually place on real houses, like where they're going to place and set up. I had a lot of family that live in where I work too, so we just use their houses a lot.
Oh,
so
there
we
you
set
go.
up, set the ladder, set the engine, hook a hydrant, and actually stretch a line to their.
And you nailed it, man. Like the first 5 minutes, right? Like, now I guess another, answer to that is like, it doesn't have to be anything elaborate, right? Like, as a company officer, it's like, I'm going to put my guys out for 2 hours or 3 hours. And you might do that, but train to an objective, right? Like, what do I want to accomplish in this time slot? Like, I want my folks to know how to step off the truck, put a line in service, do a fast primary search, force a door. If we go through our reps and they're knocking it out of the park and we're done in 30 minutes, an hour, then we're done. Like, we might still play around if we have out of service time. Like, I get that, right? But there's so much value in just that first 5 minutes. Like, hey, when we step off the truck, what do we need to accomplish? Because if you can handle things within the first 5 minutes, whether it's at the task level or at the command level, even, like, if you got the first 5 minutes going well, a lot of times the incident is going to go well, right? Like, so goes the actions of those first few companies. Certainly the first company goes the incident, right? And those quick 5-minute drills, getting those reps are so important.
I think another good training is going to fire alarms. Actually set your rigs and set the scene up as if a real fire. A lot of us
absolutely,
just another bullshit fire alarm, but we decided like, oh, it's a fire alarm. Let's run. Let's do a full scenario right there. Some extra training.
It's perfect. Yep, it's perfect.
Absolutely. You never know when that fire alarm turns into one. I mean, wasn't it just two weeks ago or so that there was like a grab made from an automatic aid or automatic alarm?
Oh, okay.
I don't know if Brennan, if you can catch me where that was, but I remember scrolling it through Facebook. But
interesting.
It's just, it's not a new thing either. It happens all the time. Like,
it does
maybe
happen.
not necessarily the grab, but it just this was an auto alarm. I know there was another one where the caller said the fire was out. And they were like, no need to come. They told the fire department they don't need to come anymore. And I remember, I'll have to find the department because I remember seeing their first arrival pictures. There's fire shooting out of the bedroom window, like just stuff like that, where it's like you can't really trust it.
It's caught me. It's been a while, but it's caught me one time. I was a lieutenant. On a ladder company, it caught me. Not that we were complacent going in. I mean, that's a whole story. I can get in the whole story. But ultimately what happened was this college campus and this kid was smoking and burning stuff in his room. He took wet towels and like covered the door. He covered the smoke detector. And of course I walk in there and I'm like, everything is set up to make me just drop my guard, right? Like I walk in, the cop's like, hey, you're good. The fire alarm's on the first floor of the storm, which never happens, right? It's like right around the corner. And you walk in, the room's clear. Ultimately, the kid's room was so full of black smoke. And I almost walked away from that call. I almost was like, hey, this alarm won't reset. Just get it fixed or whatever. I mean, that kid be freaking dead. But ultimately, my operator was like, hey, man, something doesn't feel right. Like these alarms always reset. And so luckily, I went back in. But yeah, that does happen. Those fire alarms. And it's like, there is no worse feeling. And I will never be the guy where, you go to a fire alarm and it's because, fire department, we love to talk, right? It's like, man, did you hear Sergi, man? They went on this fire alarm on whatever Church Street. Freaking knucklehead showed up, didn't have any of their stuff off, and that thing was blooming. It's like, nope, that's not going to happen to me and my crew, So,
absolutely.
You just never know. You never know.
Was that story in your book? I think it was in your book. The second one?
About the college student?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I think it was in your book. Put that in there. Yeah. Oh yeah. I was.
It sounds familiar.
I was shook up by that, man. I'm not gonna lie. Like
that was crazy.
I remember opening that door and I was like, oh, like all this nasty smoke poured out of there. I shut the door. I'm like, how the hell did I miss this? And of course, I was on the engine that night, so the ladder, I cleared the ladder, right? And you know the story, but like the listeners, like I cleared the ladder, and I opened the door. I'm like, oh my god! So I shut it, and I'm literally running like Red Solo Cup, like run to the sink, run into the room, run to the sink, run into the room, like throwing water on this. It wasn't a huge fire. It was just like a dresser. It was kind of burning up the wall, nothing crazy. But it was just that nasty candle smoke, And I'm like standing in there, like kind of beat myself up, like, how did I miss this? And then all of a sudden I hear the kid snore, right? He's like, oh. I was like, I'm looking around, like, oh my God, there's a kid in here. And I kind of made my way over to the bed, and he's passed out. He's got a laptop open. He's out. And man, I almost cleared that scene, and that kid, I mean, he'd have been dead.
Yeah, holy shit.
But yeah, and it was crazy. My operator, he we're going to reset the alarm. No reset, right? And there's a lesson here I'll throw in there, but I'm trying to reset it, and I'm telling the cop, hey, you're gonna have to get somebody here to check this alarm out. I don't know what's going on with it. And we're starting to do the paperwork, I think, even for like a little fire watch. And my operator, he's like, we come here all the time for fire alarms. I mean, we're over there every day, right? He's like, these things always reset. They always reset. I'm like, damn, you know what? You're right. And that's what made me go back and actually look in the individual rooms, because there were kids in there. I walked in, I left this part out. Like I walked in, I'm like, hey guys, everything's good. They're like, yeah, but they didn't realize their roommate was home in there burning, door closed, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm telling you, ever since then, every time I went to an automatic fire alarm, when the detector's active, you see that little red light, right?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, everyone I went after that, like, I think we're good. I think we're clear. I'm like, I'm finding that damn, I'm finding that damn detector that's lit up. Like, I'm like, oh, all right, red light, go ahead and reset it. All right, red light's gone. Like, now we can leave.
Yeah.
That one got me.
Yeah, that one
that's
made
crazy
me think too.
Yeah, it was wild.
Obviously, you've got a true passion for leadership as well. Where did you discover this passion?
That's a good question. I don't really know where it began. I think it started when I was in the military, right? So growing up, I was kind of I was a good kid, but I didn't have a lot of direction. My brothers, I grew up with some brothers. We kind of split at a young age with divorce. And then I went to high school, and like, what does my mom know? I'm not living with her. I'm just going to live with my friends. So I lived with like my friends for the last couple of years in high school. And so I just didn't really have a whole lot of direction. I didn't have like a good father figure, right? Like I just didn't have a lot of those things. I joined the military, and in the military, they demand leadership of you, right? So here I fall into this dynamic of this environment where I have people holding me accountable. I have people teaching me. I have people mentoring me, all right, coaching me, and all these things. And I saw the value in that. And I really was drawn to my mentors early in the military that were folks that were willing to take time out of their day to train and to mentor others. And I saw the value in good leadership. I saw what it did to me. And I said, well, I want to do that for other people. So I really just modeled the behavior of those early mentors that I had in the military. And I still keep in touch with a lot of those folks today. And so as I kind of climbed the ranks, I ended up, now it was my turn, right? I had my own crew. I had my shop, which was anywhere between 5 to 7 guys. And then, right before I got out, I had about 20 people that I supervised, right? And so I was like, man, I like this leadership thing. I like seeing people change, and I like seeing people develop, and I like seeing the light bulb come on for people. And I just, in my job in the Navy, I was a damage controlman, which teaches everybody on the ship firefighting. So I was just kind of forced, like, this was my job at 18 years old, was to teach 100, 200, 800 crew members on a ship how to put out fires and how to communicate and all those things. And I really, really liked it. So I think that's kind of where it started for me. And of course, I go into the fire department, and I'm very lucky growing up in the fire department. The officers and the firefighters that I had my first year, and then on into my first 5, 6, 7 years, I mean, they really shaped my outlook of the fire service. They really contributed to the leadership style that I was already kind of developing. And, when I really got passionate about, especially teaching leadership, when I left my crew, like my crew, the guys that helped, raise me in the fire department, I would look around even my own organization and other people that maybe even I came in the academy with, and I would see that they didn't have that same path that I did, right? Like I had a captain who was, I love the guy to death. Like he's awesome. He was hard on us. Like he kept us moving. He wasn't afraid to show us tough love and get on our ass when he needed to, but he truly cared about just making us good firefighters. Like he just wanted you to be good at the job. Like if you're going to show up to the firehouse, you better know how to stretch lines, force doors, do searches, vent roofs. Like he wanted you to be good at the job. And so when I left that environment, I look around and I'm like, man, how unfair is that for other people? Like that should be everybody's normal, the normal that I had, like the guidance, the direction, the leadership, the mentorship that people gave to me as a 18-year-old kid in the military. And then, a 23-year-old new firefighter. Like that's not fair, right? Everybody should have that. And that's why I really got passionate about leadership and tried to spread a message that this is what's necessary in our fire departments, and especially at the company level, that they need to take an active role in, the morale, the professional development of their members, and people that don't take that job seriously and don't invest in their membership and don't train them to be good firefighters. It drives me crazy, but that's really why I got passionate about it, because I wanted to help others create that environment for their folks. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, it's a great answer. And I think this is going to roll right into this next one, because I know you just mentioned it as you were talking about leadership, because I think a lot of people see it hand in hand, and it absolutely has its part. What is the most enjoyable part of instructing to you then? Okay.
The most enjoyable part of instructing, I would say, is, and I think I probably already mentioned it, is like the light bulb, right? Like seeing somebody who otherwise maybe didn't have the confidence, the competence even, to all of a sudden gain that skill and feel comfortable in executing that skill to the point where they can go and it's reproducible. For me, that's what I like about teaching, whether I'm teaching a class about engine company work and hose and nozzles, or I'm standing in front of a class giving a lecture on leadership and people are like, oh yeah, like that's me, or I can try that, or I'm going to give this a shot. So just seeing people feed off, I try to be a very energetic and passionate instructor, and I think that helps. And people feed off that stuff, right? Like you guys know that, like people feed off that stuff, and like I get excited and I see them get excited and I get more excited. It's like we just sit there and we feed off each other. But that is really why I do it. Is I like to see people gain that confidence in their abilities. I say in my class when I teach, right? Like I don't believe, now I'm a realist, right? There's people that join the fire department that shouldn't be in the fire department. There's people that are selfish. They're very one-sided. They are not here to be team players. They could care less if they go to another fire. They hide in the shadows. They're sitting in the hallways, not doing any work at fire. Like those people are around. I get that. And I understand that. But I think by and large, when people graduate from the fire academy and they put their right hand in the air in front of their friends and their family and they get their shiny new badge, they're not thinking to themselves that, I can't wait to get out there and suck, People don't want to suck. You might think someone sucks and I might think someone sucks. Like people don't want to suck. I do believe that. So, if you as an officer, as a firefighter, whoever you are, an instructor, if you have that ability to give people those skills, I think firefighters want to know what the hell they're doing. I think most firefighters want to be led. I think most firefighters, when the brass hits, they want to be able to demonstrate to their peers that they know what the hell they're doing. And so if you can provide somebody those skills and that level of competency, that is fundamentally your responsibility as a company officer, especially is to train and develop people. And that's what I gain from teaching. That's what I gain from helping people, is to just, I'm helping them develop a set of skills, or maybe I'm helping them develop their own type of leadership style. It's just giving them some valuable information that will make them better firefighters. And that's all I want, right? Like, I just want people to be better firefighters, not only for themselves, but for the people they're riding the truck next to. Because I think they have a responsibility not only to themselves as individuals, but I think they have a responsibility and they owe it to the person that's riding the jump seat next to them to make sure that they know what the hell they're doing.
I like that.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Well, that is the personalized questions that we have for you. So next we have our more generic ones that we ask most of our guests as we go through, and Brennan's got those for you.
Right on.
All right. First one, you can take this however you want to take it, but it's, why are we here?
That's a good question. All right. So why are we here? I think fundamentally it goes back to everybody's mission. I would imagine that if you looked at most fire departments, their mission statement is around, probably around the same thing, right? To police got it easy. Like, I think everywhere you go to the police, right? Protect and serve, right? It's like, how do we not get something that easy to remember? Like, but yeah, it goes back to that, right? Like, you exist as a fire department, as a firefighter, to provide a service, and that service is in the form of saving people's lives and saving people's property. So I think that is ultimately why we exist, right? The fire department over the years has evolved. The fire department over the years has taken on extra responsibility, I think sometimes to a fault. I think the fire department is getting a little bit of mission creep every now and then. I mean, depending on the agency, not everyone. I'm not here to paint a broad brush, but I think there are some fire departments that forget their fire departments. I read through an annual report of a fire department recently that had nothing fire related in it. It looked like an administrative department. And I'm not here to say those things aren't important. So please, for the listeners, like, don't hear what I'm not saying. Like, those things are important, right? Like, your fire marshal's office is important. Your training division is important. Your logistics department is important. Like, those things are important. Like, they help move the department, but there's nothing more important than operations. Like, and your fire department exists to put out fires, to save people's lives and property, to provide excellent medical care. That's why you exist. And I'm reading this annual report. Like, does this fire department do this? Because a guy like me reading that would also ask the question, is that important to this organization? Like, I want to see things like run numbers. I want to see things like property value we saved. I want to see things like how many fires we went to. I want to see all those things, right? Like, is this a fire department? So there's that mission creep. But ultimately, why we are here is just that, to protect the public, to save their lives from fire, from medical emergencies. And because we know why we exist, like, that should drive all of our programs, right? Or at least most of them. Like, well, why do I need to know how to stretch a hose? Any monkey can stretch a hose. I've heard that 1,000 times. I'm like, I've seen you stretch hose, and I don't know about that. Like, it all goes back to that. Like, those things matter. Stretching a hose line the right way in a fast, efficient way matters. Like, doing a search the right way matters. Doing a proper assessment on a trauma victim matters. All of those things go back to your mission. So the question of why we are here, we're reminded every day when we go to the grocery store, when we see members of the public. Like, that is the job that you asked for. You asked for a life of service when you joined the fire department. And I think sometimes we forget that. We can get a little bit entitled as firefighters, and we can get a little self-righteous every now and then. And I'm not saying I've probably had those thoughts too, just like anybody else. And I've had the right people keep me on course, but that's fundamentally why we exist, to save people's lives and property, and to show up and not look like a bunch of idiots getting off a clown car, but looking like the varsity squad stepping off the trucks.
I like that answer.
Absolutely.
Next one. What trainings/conferences have been your favorite to attend?
Oh man, that's a good one.
There's so many.
There is a lot of great ones, man. Gosh, conferences. Well, I'm going to stay away from the big ones. I liked, one I only went for a couple years. I don't even know if they're going to do it anymore. The Art of Firemanship and it's moved around a little bit, but they used to have it up in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. That was awesome. I really, really liked that one. I actually really liked the journal that they did along with it, the Art of Firemanship journal. Do you guys remember that one?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, it was awesome. So Brian Bassinelli, I'm gonna call him out. He used to put that publication together. Man, it was so good. So that is one that I really like. I tell you what, man, I get a good vibe from a lot of the South Carolina conferences. I don't know what it is, but I really, really like the South Carolina vibe. And as I don't know how they feel about it, but as an outsider going into South Carolina from Virginia, and I know it's not that far away, and I just like the culture. I feel like any of the classes and the conferences that I go to in South Carolina, especially like a lot of the young firefighters, man, they're just full of piss and vinegar, and I love it. So any of the conferences down there, and then I'm trying to give you one more that I really can't. Man, there's so many freaking good ones, but yeah, they're everywhere. It'd be so hard for me to land on one more. I think they're all doing awesome, and I think over the years it's gotten a little bit better with like it's not so cutthroat. Like they're all supporting each other, which I think is a good thing. Like if it's for a little while there was if I had a conference. And then, there was another one that popped up an hour away. It's like, whoa, like, hey man, we're already doing our thing here. It should be like, no man, how can I help you? Like, let's coordinate. Maybe we can offset dates so we don't compete for attendance and stuff. And but yeah, there's so many good ones, man. Like recently I went to the beach. The Virginia Beach does a great job with their conference. That one's getting better and better over the years. The Virginia Fire Rescue Conference, the Fire Ground Commander Conference, it was that went on for several years in Henrico. Ben Martin. Have you guys had Ben Martin on the show?
We have not.
Not yet.
Oh, you have to get him. Ben's squared away, dude. He ran a conference out there for several years and brought in all kinds of great people, man. There's so many good ones. There's so many good ones.
Might add that to the bucket list. South Carolina.
One I do want to go to. I still have yet to make it to FDTN.
I want
to go there so bad. You guys have been?
Cool. I've been there.
Brendan did.
Yeah. Did you go for like the full week?
Yep. It's a fire ground. That's the first class they host. It's like you do everything.
Yeah.
I forgot what it's called, but like fire combats or something like that. It's basically the introduction class to their additional like truck company, engine company classes.
Okay.
But yeah, it was a very awesome training, really awesome instructors. So
yeah,
get down there if you can.
Another one I want to go to and I haven't made it to yet, and I've heard is really, really good is the Wichita Hot. I haven't been to that yet.
Yeah.
Went there last year. It was cool.
We were there last year.
Oh,
we've gotten to know quite a few Wichita guys. It's been awesome. We've had a ton of them on the show, honestly, too. And that they put on a great course. That was an awesome time.
God, I'm jealous. I need to get out there, man. It's usually
highly recommend.
Isn't it August is August? Is that right?
Yes.
What? I think it was August.
Something like that.
So yeah, I might
forgot. We drove and it was nice. So yeah, probably.
Yeah, probably August. End of August, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Next one. How should we look at failures?
Ooh, that's a good one. So this is from a guy who's failed quite a bit. And when I say failed, I mean I've failed in trying to develop somebody that I thought I could turn around. Like I've failed in kind of motivating somebody, if you will. I've failed at handling difficult conversations. I've failed doing that before. I have failed in pushing projects up through my chain of command, like whether it's something I'm passionate about and it hits the desks downtown at the Puzzle Palace and it dies a horrible death. Like I've failed a lot of times. And it's very easy to get to wallow in your failure, right? Like, I don't know if you guys have done it. I've been 100% guilty of it, right? Like I have this plan. I like it because it's mine, obviously, right? Like I send this plan up, it goes to my bosses, it goes to their bosses, and they just torpedo the hell out of that thing. And then I sit there and wallow in failure, right? Like they don't get it. Why would they not do this? This makes sense, blah, 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 blah. Even to the point where I might start to pick at them, right? Like, why would they do this? They're not using their brains. They don't know what they're talking about. They never support me, blah, blah. So it's very hard for us to to recognize our wins, when we wallow in failure. And if you continue to do that, you will never look at the wins and the successes. And like, you just have to understand, in the fire department, there are things that you are just not going to do, right? There are things that you are just going to fail at. And if you're super passionate about that one particular thing, then by all means, like, grab your flag and drive on, like, and maybe fight another day. But you sometimes have to ask yourself, is this the hill that I'm willing to die on? Like, do I really want to put all my energy and capital and my leadership capital and maybe my credibility or my reputation on the line to push this forward? Or do I say, I'll fight this another day. I'll table this till next year. I table this for the next fire chief, the next battalion chief, or whatever. So I try to look at failure as the easy ones, like an opportunity, right? Like, it's easy to say that. It's much harder to do that, but that's how I try to look at failure. Like, is there anything I could have done differently? Did I not advocate for my project well enough? Did I say something in this conversation that I regret? Because I've done that. Did I, dealing with an employee that maybe wasn't as motivated, or that I was trying to turn around, like, how did I handle that? Did I come at him as just a boss, or did I come at him as a mentor and a coach? Like, what are some things that I did wrong? And then, looking at those little failure points, like, because this is going to happen again, right? I'm going to have an employee that I'm gonna have to motivate. I'm gonna have a project or a plan I'm gonna have to provide to the fire chief. I'm gonna have a difficult conversation. Like, they're going to happen. And so remembering that those failures are just part of growth. And I think as long as you stumble forward and you remember those little things and you apply those little lessons and what I said or what I did or what I didn't say, I think if you apply those into your future endeavors, conversations, development, I think those failures just serve as something that will help with your overall growth. It's not always easy to see in the moment, but certainly the longer that I've been in the fire department, I've tried to remind myself of those things, but I'm not always the best at it, right? I have my days just like anybody else where I throw my hands up in the air and I get pissed off and I don't understand what the hell these people are doing. But then I sit back and I say, all right, like, I'm resilient, like, I'm confident. I'm gonna move on to the next thing. I'm gonna see if I can repackage and repurpose this a different way, and I'm gonna have the meeting and I'm gonna build advocates and I'm gonna do whatever I can to get through to this person. Like, I have to look at it that way. I have to look at those failures as just a normal part of the learning process, right? Because you show me, you show me somebody in your department who's failing a lot, I'll probably show you a person that is pretty active in the organization, that's willing to be a risk taker, right? That's willing to rock the boat and challenge the status quo. You show me a firefighter or a company officer or a chief who's like, yeah, I don't ever have to worry about failure my whole career. My question to you would be like, well, what the hell have you been doing? Like, either you have the magic power or you just been sitting on your hands your whole career, because there's no way that you haven't experienced failure, because that comes at the expense of risk taking and all of those things. So I think it's good for us in the end. It's not easy in the moment to recognize that. Sometimes it takes a few weeks, months, maybe even years, but it could be good. It could be good fuel for you.
Absolutely.
Awesome. And kind of last generic question we have for you: what do you tell your probies to expect when they get hired? So day one, what do you tell your probies?
Good. All right. I have a pretty structured day one, so this is an easy one for me to answer.
Awesome.
So typically what happens is, they show up first day, they go there in the morning lineup, and then they're typically riding the engine. So when I was a company officer, I spent a little bit of time on the ladder. So if I wouldn't have a whole lot of new people on the ladder as an officer, but I got them when I was assigned to the engine as a captain. So first day as a rookie with Captain Sergi, we went out and they first would walk around the truck. We'd walk around the truck. They would tell me where every tool is. I would have them they would walk around it a few times. And then once they got comfortable, I'd say, all right, this compartment, tell me what's in it. It'd be closed. And they'd say, oh, this, that, and I'd open it. So we just get those reps, right? So that's one thing we did. Then we go down the street and they'd take a hydrant. So we go through taking a hydrant. We talk about how putting the gates on and why and water supply. We'd have those little conversations. And then we would go somewhere. We'd spend all day in the district, and we'd pull every single line off the truck. They'd pull cross lays. They'd pull the rear pre-connect. They'd stretch the bundle. They'd stretch the 2.5 on a commercial building. So we would spend all day stretching hose. If we were in a high-rise district, we stretched high-rise hose in the building. So that was their first day as a rookie in the firehouse. They spent pretty much half the day going out, stretching lines on the engine, taking a hydrant, and then learning where their tools are. And the other thing was their responsibilities, right? We go to a fire, you're doing this because you're in that jump seat. We go to medical call, you're doing this because you're in that jump seat. And then really after that, it's just, as the evening's winding down, maybe we have dinner, we're having a cup of coffee, then we talk about some other stuff, right? I get into my expectations with them. So I sit down and have a conversation about my expectations on behavior, their attitude, their performance, how they interact with the crew, their job responsibilities. We have like a little red book, task book that they're responsible for completing. I make sure that they take full ownership of that. I remind them that, they are part of a team, and it's no longer about them anymore. It's about their crew members, and the things they do, the things they don't do now have an impact on other people around them. And if they have any type of selfish bone in their body, now would be the time to have that thing surgically removed. So that's one of the things I really try to drive home. And I do that because I hope that, and this is just the first day, like we continue to do these things, but I want to set the tone, right? I think it is so important as a company officer to set the tone for the first day, right? Like if I'm a rookie and I walk in the firehouse and the tone on that first day is, we'll just kind of do whatever. We don't have much planned. Here's the rig. That's where your seat is. Your locker's over there. Just let me know if you have any questions. They're like, oh, they're going to go with the flow, and maybe they find somebody who can help them out. But if they're not immediately thrust into, like, think of that, my rookie's like, hey, I show up, like, it was Cat May messing around. Like, I'm taking a hydrant. I stretched the line off every truck. They're going to go ask their fellow recruits that graduated with, hey, what did you do on your first day? Oh, man, Serge or Brendan, man, they made me stretch every line off that freaking truck. What'd you do? Like, oh, nothing. I just kind of helped the cook make a meal, and, I just checked off the truck and we ran calls. Like, what? So I think that, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it really, the point I'm trying to make is just what you do on that first day sets the tone, right? Yeah. Like with sitting down and going over your expectations, with making them put lines in service multiple times, with making them take a hydrant. Like it sends the message like, hey, there's an expectation of excellence here. Like this captain and the people that are riding this truck, or this lieutenant, or whoever it is, they expect me when the brass hits, to do my job effectively. Like this is not the JV squad here. Like they want varsity showing up here. So that was typically my rookie's first day. And then obviously they're not with me the whole time either, right? Like I want them out there with their fellow firefighters. I want those fellow firefighters talking about the culture and the reputation of the firehouse, and having their own expectations too, because they're going to have chats with them too. And I don't always have to be a part of those conversations, but I always hope that the other firefighters in the station dig their talents into that probationary firefighter too, and kind of do the same little things that I do with setting their expectations and what they expect on the truck and how to check off the truck and who to talk to. And all those things are so important that first day, man. It's huge. I truly believe that not only that first day, but that probationary year, depending on the type of crew that person is around, especially if they're an impressionable firefighter and they're not self-starters and all those things, like you can really change the trajectory of somebody's career based off that first officer and that crew that they're with. That's such an impactful moment for people.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah. Start setting that tone. Like you said, it's just so important. Understanding what you're walking into.
Yeah.
It's going to set that entire really probation period, if not career.
Absolutely.
You see, like you said, two people start at the exact same time, but they go to different crews. Not even sometimes of any fault of their own, but they're gonna.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You become a creature of your environment. So
yeah, sets that tone. It starts to develop that work ethic. Maybe they have it, maybe they don't. But if they don't, and they walk into a situation where they're already being held to a very high standard, like hopefully they start to develop, a sense of work ethic on their own.
Absolutely. Well, that completes all of the questions that we have come up with for you. So now the last two things that we have are sometimes the hardest part for people. So we've got a question for you from our previous guest, who's Garrett Crotty.
Oh, yeah.
And then you will have to come up with a question for our next guest. So our next guest is going to be the Hazmat guys from FDNY.
Okay.
So they are going to be coming on. So if you come up with a hazmat question for them, but they are, I don't know if you're familiar with their podcast or hear them teach, but I just got to hear Mike when we were down in Whammer at the conference, the hazmat conference in Wisconsin, and extremely entertaining. You actually can sit there and listen to hazmat. It's crazy. Yeah. It's wild. So
that is wild.
Very, very excited to have him on, especially, at 8 a.m. doing a conference with him, and he was able to keep the whole room awake. So
yeah.
But the question that Garrett had for you, we talked a little bit about your book.
Okay.
Or books, I should say. What inspired you to write your book?
Okay, good. So at the time, go back several years, I was starting to write blogs for fire engineering. So I was just kind of brain dumping my thoughts and my experiences into this blog. And I was starting to write a couple articles here and there. And so I had a friend of mine, he came up to me, he's like, hey man, like you have a lot of stuff like kind of in your blogs. Like, have you ever thought about putting this into a book? And my first thought was, no way. Like who am I to write a book? I have not been in the fire service long enough. I all these things telling myself like I shouldn't do this because who am I to do that? Like I just didn't feel like I had the experience. I didn't feel like I had the credibility, like why would I put myself in that position? So I didn't do anything for probably 6 months after that conversation. I was still writing and, articles, blog entries. I was active in my fire department, and my buddy Josh Chase, he's like, look, man, he's like, you gotta put this out there. He's like, there are people. Josh was raised the same way I was. We had the same captain. We had the same upbringing in the fire department. And he's like, you do have experiences that you can share with other people. Like you have experience in the military, you have experience in the fire department. Like you've had successes with developing people and providing good leadership, and failures too that are worth sharing. And so I was like, all right, what the hell? I'm going to try this thing, man. And so I just one day sat down and I came up with some themes, like I want to talk about this, that, or the other, which those themes ultimately morphed into chapters. And I would just write, man. And I would still have the same thoughts. I'd be like 2 months into it and I'm like, this is going to be the greatest thing ever. And then, 6 months later, I'm like, this is the stupidest idea. Why am I wasting my time? Because again, it was just that self-doubt. Like, why would I do this? But eventually I just kept at it and published it, and I got good feedback from it, and off it went. And I still get a lot of good feedback about it. I am the first person to tell you that, that is not the best leadership book out there. It's just simply my experiences. And one of the things that I really tried to do in that book, and hopefully I did it, was, and this is not to take away from any other leadership books that are out there at all, right? But like the ones that I would read, I'm like, I want something, like I'm a company officer. Like, how do I distill this down to practical stuff? Like, yeah, I know you need to build unit cohesion. Yeah, I know morale is important. Yeah, I know that, it's like, but tell me how to do those things. You're like, what should I do in the firehouse? So that was kind of the goal of my book, was to share my experiences and the things that people have taught me over the years. Like, all right, I'm going to have a conversation with people who read this book, and I'm going to try to give them, like, we're going to get down in the weeds with things they should do, things they should say, actions that they should take. And that was what I wanted to come out in the book. And so it's out there. And, there's the second one now, which is a new edition, which has a couple extra chapters. I beefed up the other chapters and then added the 2 new ones. But that's how it started. It really just started for me kind of doing blog entries on fire engineering and writing some articles here and there. My friend was like, hey, dude, like, you need to put all this into one package and share this with people, because you have a message that people are willing to listen to. And so I did it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's the last of the questions that you have to answer. Now you got to come up with the one for our next guest.
And a hazmat question at that.
I mean, you
God.
don't. It doesn't have to be hazmat.
Right.
They're not.
I
mean,
know.
it's not all they do.
I know.
They're just
that's
named
right.
the hazmat guys.
So I'm trying to think like. You guys might have to help me out with this one. So I'm trying to think like I'm an engine guy, right? Like I ride an engine. I don't really care about hazmat. Like I care when it's there, and I try to do a good job and have a fundamental understanding about hazmat. But I would say, just like the question you kind of asked me about, effective ways to train, I would say and this would help me or even other hazmat people that will listen, like how do they make hazmat exciting for just dumb engine guys or ladder guys? Like what cool and creative things could they do when it comes to hazmat training to make people on the engine, the ladder, like more engaged and more exciting, and not just show up and say, all right, well, let's park 800 feet away and just wait to call the hazmat team. Like, like how to get them excited about training, and then go back to the first 5 minutes. I always like to hear that. Like if I'm riding an engine or a ladder, what are the things that I can do within the first 5 minutes to set up a successful hazmat incident? Because there's a lot that goes into that, right?
Yeah.
Identification, research, all that containment. Like, what can I do as an engine officer? What are the steps that I can take? What things can I communicate to the hazmat team, whether it's local or regional? Like, how could I get that incident going in the right way? As opposed to some things that I've seen in the past where we go to a hazmat, we say, it's a hazmat, let's sit back and wait. And then the hazmat team comes in here and they're probably saying things like, I wish that freaking engine company would have done this, or I wish the officer would have made this decision. I wish they would have called this person already. So there might be several questions in there, but I think the main one would be provide some guidance and some direction, some tips on what a first arriving officer can do that has limited or no hazmat experience to set up a good, successful hazmat operation.
I like it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm gonna listen because that'd be good for me too.
Yeah. Like I said, I've never been more entertained taking a hazmat course. So
no doubt, that's good.
That's awesome. Good. But thank you so much for your time. The last
absolutely, it's been fun.
Yeah, the last portion that we have is what we call the kitchen table. So it's kind of whatever you want. If there's something that you want to go into a little bit more, some shout outs that you want, conferences, just any last thing that you'd like to get out there before we wrap up. The floor is yours.
Ooh, all right, good. So I'll ask you guys so based off the people that you interview or you do the podcast with, are you starting to see common trends like we're good at picking out problems? Like one of the main problems that you see in the fire service or across fire departments that makes us not unique. Like, what are you seeing as trends? Does that make sense? Like everybody comes on and talks about this, or everybody comes on and talks about that. Are you guys starting to notice common themes with how long you've been doing this?
Oh,
and if so, what are they? Maybe like your top 3 if you have them.
I mean, there's definitely been a lot of things that we share kind of every episode that we talk about. And in terms of problems, the fortunate thing is maybe 1 or 2.
Maybe that's not the right word to use.
Yeah, but there's people
challenges.
that talk about like the generational gap, but that's kind of easily fixed. I mean, you've got a young department, and as long as you got the older people that come in there, but everything absolutely comes back to culture is the one that's a guaranteed, just universal topic. As everybody talks about that cause, like you even said with your probies. I mean, if you come into a lazy house or just a not, a house where everyone kind of goes to their bunk room, stays away. Like they're just bound and destined to be a less efficient, a worse, we'll say, crew than one that you show up and hey, it's 10 minutes in, they're finishing up their rig checks and then they're going to go stretch line. They're going to do mask ups. We got, training to go in the afternoon, like just things like that where that definitely is one that you see across everywhere.
Culture. Yeah. Just creating the right type of culture. Yeah, that's good. And that starts when someone walks through the freaking door. Right. And, and it starts with officers too. Like the officers have a choice every day they walk in the station, like that was one of the reasons that I became a company officer, because I wanted a team. I wanted to drive culture, like I wanted to create this reputation that, if I'm at station 1 or 14, like we're going to be the best freaking city or the best freaking station in the city. Right. And that's what I believed.
Yeah.
And that drove the culture, you know, like the things that we did go back to that statement, you know, and man, that's so freaking important. And you could do that from wherever you sit. As a firefighter, it could be hard because sometimes you feel like you're on an island. But man, if you're a freaking officer, you know, especially a command officer, be the damn fire chief. I mean, you can drive it right from the top, you know, and it's certainly harder to drive it from the middle or off from the side. It's not impossible, but you got to have that support too. You know, you got to have that support.
I think another one is mental health is starting to come up a little more, and how you get that work-life balance and what they do to help support their mental health. And
that's good.
Stuff to talk about there.
Disconnecting a little bit more. And I'm still not the best at that, man. I'll fully admit it, you know,
I ain't
like
either.
Especially on days like, you know, I'm on Monday through Friday. So I get a lot more email, you know, in my position now than I did before as an operational battalion chief, you know? So it's like, I can come home and I can put my phone away and I can not read my work emails, but man, I'm just as guilty as the next guy, like looking at, let me respond to this. And I need to knock that off because unless I'm on call, that's different. But there's been a couple times where I've come home and I've looked at my phone and looked at my work email and got like really fired up about something, you know, like really pissed me off. And it's like, man, it's going to ruin my freaking night. And I'm supposed to be sitting here with my kids and my wife, like hanging out, watching Zootopia, you know, and here I am getting pissed off at this email. So having that ability to disconnect is important. You know, it's hard to do as firefighters, especially if you're a passionate one, because it's like, you just ate up with the job. You love it. Like you're all in, but man, sometimes you got to turn it off. And I think that's okay to do, you know, and
for sure.
I still try, you know, when I go on vacations, I try to turn it off when I'm with my family consecutive days, I try to turn it off. But I'm not the best at it either, man. You know, I'm working on it. I'll always be working on it. But,
absolutely.
Yeah. But whatever people can do, man, like, you know, you mentioned mental health and like your physical health, your mental health, whether it's going to the gym, running, fishing, like all those things are really essentially a form of meditation. You know, I go work out, I train jujitsu. Like those are the things that disconnect me from the world for a little while, and certainly from work. So finding that balance is tough.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to come on to share some knowledge.
Of course.
It's always a great time. And thank you for coming on. Thank you everybody for listening and watching. I know we just transferred everything over to YouTube and that's been doing great. So a special thank you to everyone that's made that easy transition from Facebook over to YouTube. So hopefully everyone's been enjoying, and as always, don't be a shitbag.
Right on. See you guys. Thank you.